Hi guys, I realised it's been a long time since I did any instructional content, and I thought, seeing I've been teaching these RGT electric guitar grades now for a few years, and I've just had my first student pass grade 8, so I feel pretty confident now that I can give you some useful tips for doing these grades. So I'm just going to start at the very start with preliminary grade. So start right off the bat, look at the scales section. So the nice thing about the scales section and the chord section, you know exactly what they can ask you before you go into the exam. So you should definitely practice these and be aiming at getting 100% every time if you can at all. So a little tip for preliminary grade is the C major scale and A minor scale are very similar. So I'll let you work that out yourself. Similarly, the G pentatonic major scale and the E blues scale are very similar. So another nice thing is in the book it has the note names right under the scale name. So here it says C major scale, directly underneath C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So if you memorize where these are, so this is C, this is D, this is E, and so on for each scale, your life gets a lot easier than when you come to the end of the book and you've got the theory questions and spoken questions. So moving on to the chords. There are a lot of chords. And it's kind of strange because there's four scales and then there's 10 chords, but all of these chords are really useful. You will end up playing all of these chords at some point or another in your guitar playing life, and to be honest, you probably end up playing 4 or 5 of them for almost every song you want to learn. So definitely learn the chords off here, and then what you can do is you can just go immediately to learning songs by whoever your favorite artists are. Just use the chord sheets off ultimateguitar.com or whatever, and you'll find you're using a lot of these chords and you're practicing, but you're playing the music you enjoy. So I suppose general tips, if you don't have a guitar teacher you might not know these things, so you want to fret all the chords with the very tips of your fingers. And a good way to check if you're playing a chord kind of clearly or not, it sounds kind of off and you're not sure, is just listen to it one string at a time. So that string sounds correct, that string sounds correct, oh that one's the one that's not good, so I'll just readjust my fingers, yeah, I can make it sound okay. And honestly, don't worry if you struggle a bit. It took me months to get the hang of even what I would now call basic chords. It's not basic when you start, it's a bit tough, and don't get disheartened. I promise you will be able to play them all perfectly in a few years time and never even think about it again. So with the rhythm playing section, first of all the chords are ones from the previous chord section. So if you practice for one section, you're practicing for the other one. And next thing is, it's only going to be in 4/4 time, so you don't have to understand what that means yet. So you can learn one simple strumming pattern for all the charts that can possibly come up, and it will work for all of them. I definitely suggest that rather than kind of making up a chord strumming pattern on the fly every time. So just even something simple like, say, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. Perfectly fine at this grade, and definitely going to get you through all this stuff. Even if you should panic a little in the exam, it's nice to have a prepared strumming pattern. As goes the speed of the pieces, the tempo markings are intended only as broad guidelines. It says that there. So don't try and play it really fast. If it says fast and you're just maybe not that confident, take it down a little bit slower. I promise you it will be fine. It's better to play it slowly with no breaks than to play it fast with lots of mistakes. So with the lead playing section, and a lot of my students at preliminary grade are really worried because they think the examiner is going to expect them to play like Slash or someone amazing right out of the gate. It's not like that. They know this is the very first guitar grade. What they want to see is that you know which scale to use, which isn't too hard, we'll come to that in a minute, and that you can play some very basic improvised melodies. And just between you and me, they don't really have to be 100% improvised. So a lot of guitar players have a few licks that they know off, and then they play them whenever they come to solo. And I definitely suggest practicing with backing tracks on YouTube or something and trying to come up with things that you like, and then you memorize them. The other thing is they're not expecting any kind of crazy lead playing technique. It's not even string bending. So it's literally just, can you play something that sounds vaguely melodic, vaguely in time, along with this. So overall, I'd just say don't panic. The next thing is, it's good to repeat yourself a little bit. So you have a simple phrase, so like so that would be absolutely fine for a kind of preliminary grade lead section bit. So that's just the same idea a few times with a couple of different endings. It's really not very complicated. So first section of the spoken test is fingerboard knowledge. So what I suggest is, if you learn all the notes from the scales earlier, like the first section of this grade book, then you actually know all of these already. You check all the notes in the fretboard knowledge section are the same as all the notes from the scale. So you can learn them here, or you can learn them from the scale, whichever one suits you better. And all the other stuff is kind of self-explanatory, just memorize it off. And moving into the listening tests. These things are kind of hard to practice unless you have a teacher to play with. If you don't, there's a piece of software called Earmaster Pro, which I would hardly recommend. There's probably a few other free ones that I'm not so aware of. If anyone has some good suggestions, if they comment, then I'll try and link them in the description. And it's kind of tricky to practice listening just by yourself, but it's kind of fun as well. So for repetition of rhythms, what I'd recommend is, if you get Earmaster Pro, there is just a repetition of rhythms. I think it might be rhythmic dictation or something, I can't remember exactly. And you just get played your rhythm, and you try and tap it back on your space bar or click it on your mouse. And that's pretty much exactly what you're going to do in the exam. They're going to play your rhythm twice. You can play it back on your guitar, on the A string or E string, whatever suits you. Or you can clap it back, and what you're trying to do is get it exactly. Then the next section, repetition of melodic phrases. A really good way to practice this is just try and work out everything you can by ear. So songs you're learning to play, or just melodies, nursery rhymes, anything you can work out, try and work it out. Even things you don't think you can work out, try and work them out. You might be wrong. You might be pleasantly surprised that your ears are actually okay. And if they're not okay, then you really need to try and work things out. So either way, just working your ears. The keeping time section is a little tricky to practice, so I definitely recommend get a teacher for this one, because it's really hard to practice by yourself. One kind of decent way to do it is to put on music and just try and tap your foot to the beat. So for some people this comes very naturally, for other people it's really difficult. So try and listen specifically for the drums. You don't tap along with the exact notes the guitar player is playing, you tap along to the overall beat of the song, and usually the drummer keeps time for the overall beat of the song. So for the pitch test, it's just whether a note is higher or lower than the other. If you have trouble with this, and some people do, and I certainly did way back in the day, it's just helpful sometimes to imagine the notes have a height and see if you can hear them going up or down. Sometimes that's easier than just kind of hearing it and knowing immediately. It sounds silly, but it can really help. And the last section, the harmony test, is either 5 major chords in a row or 5 minor chords in a row. So generally speaking, major chords sound kind of happy. Minor chords sound kind of sad. And that's how you tell the difference.